Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time worldwide. And we're also coming to you on iHeartRadio. And we'll be hitting that spot on this summer, July of 2016. So we thank them for the opportunity to do that. And also, Big C, I know that we want to thank our audience from Latin America. We have a lot of people that tweet in and follow Charlton Big C Sports worldwide. So bienvenidos to you. Also out to London, England, as well as Berlin, Germany, and the great country of Canada, and of course the United States of America. Ironically, I met someone today from Australia, and we also are in Australia, so that's ironic. And Big C, I know you're from the good old Southeast. How are things going down south for you, Big C?
Well, Charlton, it's pouring rain and thundering going on here today. You know, I was going to ship you some, but I was like, you know, they would not appreciate the water in California if I sent it out there to them. You know, there's a reason why the rain doesn't go out there.
Well, I saw the movie Smokey and the Bandit, so whatever you're shipping, I want to make sure it's pure water, Big C, and not some moonshine that you good old boys are known for, Big C.
It's running down the windows right now, Charlton.
Well, we could always take more of that, Big C, so whatever you have going on, we'll gladly take it. And I also want to say, Big C, I appreciate so much of what you do because people keep asking me, who is this guy, Big C? And ironically, I was talking to someone from the NFL Network just over the weekend, and we're talking about some things going on with them. Also, there's a Brendan Anderson who does work in the Bay Area, and he talks to he does a lot of interviews of Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors and Coach Kerr, and also Lee Steinberg, who's also tweeted out to us on Charlton and Big C Sports. So we're going to be doing some TV work also coming up in the fall for Charlton and Big C Sports. Big C, your thoughts on that? You have about 40 years in the business, Big C.
Well, Charlton, you know, exposure is always a wonderful thing in sports, but, you know, the greatest part about the exposure is that you come to the platform with something that people appreciate. You know, anybody can give a score. I mean, we see that every day on all of the sports platforms, but can you generate and tell a story? Can you elaborate on how it got to that point?
Yeah.
Can you entertain the listener instead of running a 30-minute loop on the same scores all the time?
Yeah.
You know, so that's what we bring, Charlton. I mean, our show is 30 minutes, but that one 30-minute loop is very informative. You know, social, sports issues, world issues. You know, we are real talk, Charlton, and we give people what they expect, and that's the reason why our viewership has grown so expeditiously in such a short time.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, too, because we're also prescient enough to see things before they happen. That's having knowledge of things before they happen. And I know we talked about this tragic shooting with the Dallas police officers, and we were on that all day Friday. Well, all day, or actually all Friday evening, and then all over the weekend, CNN and MSNBC as well as ABC, CBS, and NBC TV were covering the same thing. I'm not saying anything other than the fact that we're one of the only sports stations that did a whole show to the tribute to the Dallas police force. Because all over the country, Big C, it's not just Dallas. You know, Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. But the fact is, Black Americans are 75% more likely to be charged with a crime than white Americans. And the Kerner Commission did a report back about 50 years ago that was also done again under the Bush administration, and they talked about race and how it affects everything. Now, I know this is a sports show, but I'll be one of the last guys that will allow an audience to think that Black Americans are only about sports, because we're about business, we're about the economy, we're about economics, we're about everything. And if you can't use the biggest platform for young minds, and that's the college atmosphere, to educate people and indoctrinate people to be politically inclined, then you're kind of wasting your time. So that's why I appreciate Charlton and Big C Sports even more so than ESPN and Fox. Big C, your thoughts on that?
Well, Charlton, we've talked about it since we've been on the air, about how colleges and universities are manipulating African-American athletes as well as Anglo athletes, Charlton.
Oh, yeah.
It's a meat factory. All you're doing is churning people to make a financial gain. I mean, it's a corporation. And, you know, when you look at it, they're not concerned whether a young athlete gets his degree. It's about how many wins this coach can have, because if this coach is not winning, they're going to fire him, Charlton. But if he's winning, he's going to make more money, the university's going to make more money. And these are the things that the other talking heads are not talking about.
Yeah.
You know, and they have to be honest about that. You know, we talked about the Great Pat Summit with that 100% graduation ratio of all our players that use up their eligibility.
Yeah.
You can't go back across the board and find another coach, especially on the male side, Charlton, that can say that all of their players graduate. They don't exist today.
No.
It's about, let me get a shoe contract. As a coach, why does a coach on a college basketball team, Charlton, need a $1.5, $2 million shoe contract?
Well,
okay, I'm still trying to understand that, but yet his players can't get a gift certificate to McDonald's.
Well, Big C, I think that's so powerful, and when you mention that, I know by football season, by the fall, you're going to have Sports Center, and they're sponsored by Home Depot, and you're going to have a lot more people talking about the ability to pay athletes, because I think as athletes become more intelligent, there's going to be a walkout on some of these major football games coming up, because you have Jay Billis, who also brought it up that not paying athletes is an antitrust violation. I know in the SEC conference they're building larger stadiums that at least hold 100,000 people, and there's no way to pay this slave labor, and most of these athletes are African American, and more people are starting to talk about it since you started bringing it up about a year ago, and then also Jim Brown touched on it. But I also want to say that this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealer, home of the all-new Escalade. You can only get it there brand new, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. So Big C, this is something important that I think I want to bring it up, because I saw it on CNBC. It was Michael Eric Dyson, who's a professor, and he's written many books about race and economics in the United States. And they even had one of the presidents or world leaders from a European country that was on CNN over the weekend. And he was surprised at how much people in the United States still deal with the racial aspect, because in Europe, many people deal with themselves based on their nationality, not based on their skin color, which I thought was eye-opening to me to hear that, because it means America can get there. But I want to bring this up to you, Big C, because you're one of the big proponents about it. And like I said before, I thought you were just an angry guy from the South, and maybe someone who grew up in Jim Crow. And so
I had a couple of drinks when we were talking.
No, but see, what I thought, what you were just being, I mean, let's be real, okay? This is real talk. A lot of the networks, they don't want to talk about race, because most of these networks, they're Caucasian-owned. And why would they talk about something that they benefit from, which is discrimination? Okay, when I have a European prime minister talking about discrimination in America and how he's shocked that it still goes on, because most people in Europe, when they see something about America, they see athletics. And they see athletics are dominated by African American. But he lamented that it's only on the playing surface. When you get into the playing surface, most people play about 5 years on average, football, basketball, baseball. It's what you do, and when your playing days are over, do you have the same opportunity? So when African Americans are about 85% of the NBA and about 75% of the NFL, when it comes to coaching, they're only about 40% of the NBA and only about 10% of the NFL. This is brought up by a European leader, not Charlton and Big C Sports. So I just want to make that important, Big C, that you brought this up first. What's it going to take to make sure that people get the same kind of treatment after their playing days as they have during their playing days, Big C? Because that's so important that even a European leader brought it up on CNN, Big C. Your thoughts on that?
Well, Charlton, I go back to the joke called the Rooney Rule, okay?
Yeah.
Where African-American coaches are supposed to get an opportunity to interview. And you have to look at that word interview, not an opportunity to get the job, interview. As long as we talk to one or two, then we're okay. We've met the criteria that's been set aside by the NFL league office.
Yeah.
Knowing that you're not going to hire the individual, but you bring them in. There's plenty of quality African-American coaches, Charlton, around the NFL. When you look at the winning records of African-American coaches that have been in the NFL, and then you look at some of these records of Anglo coaches that have hung around forever without winning. Why is that, Charlton? Why is that? And it's only a racial divide. But, when you talk about having somebody who can communicate with the players, it's very easy to communicate with your own race, Charlton.
Yeah.
And so when you have these coaches who don't have an opportunity to use that dialogue, to understand the problems that a young man may be having, to be able to work with it versus, it's like if I live in the inner city and I go to the suburbs, I'm totally lost.
Yeah.
You look at the Wonderlook test that was set up by the NFL for the draft.
Yeah.
That was the most racially biased test ever set up.
Yeah.
Because some of these kids had never even seen the things that were on the test. And so you're wondering why the African Americans were getting a low score. But if you took that and spun it in reverse, from an African-American perspective, what would the scores been for the Anglo players, Charlton?
And see, Big C, that's something that's important to talk about, too. And I just want to say this also because as we talk about the sports business, and I believe that sports is something that brings everyone together. We're talking about the Olympics coming up, where you have over 190 countries that are participating in the Olympics. But I'm going to give you your traditional American sports broadcasting program. And this is what we find on your standard TV, whether it's Fox or ESPN or ABC Monday Night Football, whatever it is. And let's talk about baseball right now. In the American League, the Red Sox 4, the Rays nothing, the Yankees 11, the Indians 7. It was the Baltimore Orioles 4, the Angels 2, the Astros 2, and the Athletics 1 in 10 innings. It was the Mariners 8 and the Royals 5. The Twins beat the Rangers 15-5. The Blue Jays beat the Tigers 6-1. In the National League, it was the Nationals 3 and the Mets 2, and the Marlins 7, the Reds 3, the Chicago Cubs 6, and the Pirates 5, and the Cardinals 5, and the Brewers 1. And also the Los Angeles Dodgers beat the Padres by a score of 3-1, and it was the Phillies over the Rockies by a score of 10-3. So that's what traditional sports are doing. But I think they're missing the boat, Big C, because that's 1950 sports reporting. What we have right now is an environment where the world is shrinking because more and more people, even in Charlton and Big C sports, we have people from Russia that tweet into Charlton and Big C sports. We have people from Latin America that tweet into Charlton and Big C sports. We're not a billion-dollar company yet. We can get there because we have people in Dubai that listen also. And I know somewhere out there in the world, there are people who want real talk. So I just gave you what the major networks are showing you because they only want you to be mesmerized by the score. But Big C, I'm going to have you do something that you do as well as anyone. I want you to talk about how the Major League Baseball became integrated, because tonight we're having the All-Star pregame and they're having guys hitting home runs in San Diego. Tomorrow's the baseball's All-Star game. But when we talk about the Negro Leagues and the integration of baseball, Big C, go ahead and talk about a minute or two on how the game became integrated. Big C, your thoughts on that?
The game became integrated. Everybody thought Branch Rickey was doing Jackie Robinson a favor, Charlton. It wasn't about that. It was about economic decline for the Negro League. If I take the best young players, Charlton, and that's like in anything, even if you're raising livestock, if you take the best of the young stock, then the old stock gets old without any replacement. And that's what Branch Rickey did. He started taking young African-American players. And what happened, because they saw the economic gain, is that, okay, the African-Americans now will come to Major League stadiums. And if I can get another 10 to 15,000 people in my arena, it wasn't about helping black people.
Yeah.
It was about taking money from the black community, because it forced the Negro League, Charlton, to fold within 10 years.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. You know, it was about economic, denigration of the African-American community. Take something else that they have. That's what they did. And you think about the number of African-American players, Charlton, that were playing in the Negro League.
Yeah.
Versus the number of them that they sent to the National League and American League.
Well,
so when you look at that, how many African-Americans were now unemployed? Not just the players, Charlton, the people who worked in the stadiums, the concession, all of those things. So they raped the African-American community economically.
Well, see, Big C, and that's very important, because when we have a European leader that on CNN is saying that he's surprised at how much race is still an issue in the United States, because I know people may get caught up in this Black Lives Matter. All lives matter. But when it comes to the economy, when you hear that African Americans, for young black men, I think they were saying that about 1 in 5 are under the tutelage of the criminal justice system. That means you're on parole or probation. And then when they say that, and the Kerner Commission pulled this up. So this is a government study. The Kerner Commission over 50 years ago, and they also did it again in the Bush administration. They studied race in the United States. And sometimes people say, well, why are black Americans complaining? We have civil rights now. They have the right to vote. They can live pretty much wherever they want to. But it's deeper than that, Big C. It's about how people are, it's systemic. There are pillars set up that if we don't eradicate, we're going to be dealing with this garbage for the next 100 years. Just like women have the right to vote. People of color have the right to vote. And this is not anti-white, because it's taken good white leaders who had the heart and the intelligence to do what the Constitution talks about, which is create liberty and justice for all. And we all have the right to pursue happiness. But see, I think something that gets lost in the score, we just talked about the scores, how what team won what game or whatever, and Major League Baseball's having this great All-Star game, Big C.
The reason why it scores constantly, because these people are not sports people that you see on these talking
They're readers,
shows.
yeah.
These are people who were journalists in college, and they got a job because they could read on a sports show. They could read a teleprompter. They could keep up with the tape.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that they have. But if you ever listen to them, can they elaborate on a story? They be creative. They cannot. You know, they throw it over to their partner because their partner has the next set of read lines. You know, they can't sit there. If you turn off that prompter, Charlton, it is an empty, hollow show.
Yeah.
Because it can't tell you anything to elaborate on. You know, it's just like when Serena Williams won her 7th Wimbledon title over the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? She won her 7th title. Martina Navratilova won 7 consecutive titles at Wimbledon, Charlton. You think about that, 7 consecutive, an all-time record of 12 that she has. Andy Murray on the men's side won his 2nd tournament, Charlton, at the all-grass Wimbledon club. And he won his first one in 2013, a great representation for England, being a hometown boy, winning the Wimbledon championship.
Yeah.
But when you look at that, Charlton, how many African Americans actually get a chance to participate in England?
Well, see,
and
that's true.
Not being racist, but even the outfits at Wimbledon are all white.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you look at that, that goes a long way. They were trying to keep purity of all white, so you can't wear any colors other than that, Charles.
And see, this is what I want to bring up, too, and this segment is sponsored by your Northern California BMW dealer, home of the ultimate driving machine. You could go down and test drive the 1 Series all the way up to the super powerful 600 horsepower M7, also known as the 760 Li. And when you're test driving it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. Now, I remember buying my first BMW. It was a 535i, and when I drove that car, I was thinking, you know, what's the big deal about the BMW? But once I started driving through the mountains between Sacramento, California, and Lake Tahoe, I realized how they are the ultimate driving machine. So go down and test drive one and let them know Charlton and Big C sent you. So, Big C, when I have a European leader saying that the problem in the United States is he didn't know it was so much about race, but he was saying, now this is someone outside of the country, someone that Donald Trump would build a wall to keep out, but he's Caucasian features, right? But he said economics is what people need. Because let's be real, when you're starving, when you haven't had a good meal, and in fact, when you haven't had healthy food to eat, your body's not going to be as nourished. And if you're not as nourished, you're going to do what it takes to eat. And sometimes people have to resort to whatever means necessary. Just like the Kennedy grandfather, when he was doing bootlegging up and down the East Coast, they were a well-off family, but that made their family very wealthy. Okay, we laugh about the moonshine, but one of the nation's largest patriarchal families, that's how they got their wealth, through moonshine and Big C. Now, I want to bring that up because this is a European leader saying, he opined that the solution for African Americans in the United States is economics. That's the same thing Dr. King was talking about. That's the same thing Thurgood Marshall talked about. That's the same thing that even the Malcolm X talked about. It's economics. And I bring it up because we're going to celebrate this All-Star game, which is predominantly Caucasian, and then players from, Latin countries. But who cares if someone makes $100 million or $200 million? If the average American, whether they're black or white, can understand the stock market to do what the Fortune 500 companies are doing, then sports becomes ancillary to the money you can make. So therefore, kids won't have to think they have to become a football player or a basketball or baseball player to make a decent living. They can master the stock market, Big C. And you brought it up first. I want to ask you to expound on that, Big C. Go right ahead, sir.
Well, learning the commodities trade, the stock market, Charlton, is something that's very easy. When we talk about these learning centers that they're putting in the schools, the middle schools, the high schools, these are the things that they should be teaching. There's free programs and platforms to teach children how to trade. You don't have to tell a kid because he's tall, he's thick, that he's going to be the next great. And that happens so often that people get coddled because of their size, Charlton. They don't even expand upon their intelligence or whether they have it or not.
Yeah.
They're only being coddled because of their size. Hey, come on out and play for us. You can play. You come on out. We'll make sure you start. We'll find a position for you. We don't care about your grades. And that's what happens. I mean, there's platforms out there. Ninja Trader is one of them. There's plenty of other platforms out there, Charlton, that will give you simulated money, that will teach you how to trade. Now, you take a young person, Charlton, that's 10 years old, and teach them how to function in the stock market, Charlton. by the time they're 20, they're a millionaire, Charlton.
Yeah.
They don't have to worry about which path in life that they're taking. They don't have to go run up and down a court and beat up their body. They don't have to go out and try to tackle somebody hoping that they make a team, Charlton. So, you know, when we look at these college programs and we talk about social economics so often, and it's something that they don't teach the kids, Charlton, there should be a finance scenario in these college programs that these kids can take social economics. But they don't do that. The only thing they're thinking about
they do it in private schools, Big C.
And manipulate them.
They do it in private schools, which are predominantly Caucasian, because a lot of people in public schools don't have the same type of teaching, or they have teachers who are stressed out because they're barely making it by. But at the private school level, they do teach those things. I recall the great Marva Collins, who taught at an inner city school, and all of her kids went to college. There are also some basketball players that do some great things to help kids go on to college. And I forget the guy's name, but he played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's actually helping programs where single moms can get a down payment.
Brooks, linebacker.
Yeah, for their a down payment for a home. But I want to bring this up because I think this is so powerful too. You know, there's something called Rule 72 where you can double your money every 7.5 years. Now, look at a lot of the people, and this is going to start at the elementary level. What legacy can we leave? Who cares that Kevin Durant signed with the Warriors? Who cares that Michael Jordan was one of the wealthiest players in the world of sports? Who cares that Barry Bonds, he leads the Major League in home runs? Who cares that Tom Brady's won X number of Super Bowls with New England Patriots, or Larry Bird was one of the greatest Boston Celtics ever? What matters is for the young kids, not just the kids who play sports, but all kids, all colors. If they understand the stock market more than they do John Madden 2016 or NCAA 2K16, if they could understand that, they would start to eradicate poverty. That's coming from Big C and also an English Prime Minister. Okay, this is something that we could talk about on Fox or ESPN, but they don't. They just tell you the score. They tell you that Serena Williams won, and she had her 22nd championship. And they're going to talk about who hit the home run the farthest on Monday night or actually Tuesday for the All-Star game. But they have a platform, just like Charlton and Big C's doing, that can leave something behind for the next generation. And this next segment, Big C, I want to say that's brought to you by your Northern California Ford dealers, home of the all-new F-150. They build it Ford tough. And when you go down and test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. Also, BeneathHisWingsFoundation.org. Make a donation today. It's easy, it's fast, and secure. And contact Cynthia Evans of CYNN Entertainment. When it comes to promotion, she's the best in Northern California. And when you tweet out to her, let her know that Charlton and Big C sent you. And also, Big C, speaking of that, I just want to bring this up real quick because I've been telling you about this theme song that we have with Charlton and Big C Sports. And we have a great artist by the name of Mr. Anon. And he goes by the real Anon. Check this out for about 10 seconds, Big C. Let me know what you think.
All right, Charlton.
Oh, no, you in trouble now. Hard-hitting sportscast, don't you fumble now. Charlton and Big C, we don't...
Now that's about Charlton and Big C Sports. You can hear that right now in Australia. You can hear that in Russia. You can hear that in Japan, Dubai. We talked about that in Latin America, Berlin, Canada, and of course the great United States. So not only are we getting into the music, Big C, I got to get those vocal cords cleared out for you. So you got to lighten up on some of that moonshine that you drink, Big C. And also we're getting into some people that are also on television. So Charlton and Big C Sports are also coming to television, and I just want people to know that we appreciate all the work that goes in to everything that we're doing, Big C, because we're not just here to report the score. I want to make sure that my legacy means that Charlton and Big C created something for all kids, no matter what color you are, no matter what race you are, just like Ollie in the Ollie Center. I want to make sure that we leave something behind so that young kids, all kids, will have an opportunity to pull themselves up, like Ronald Reagan said, by their own bootstraps, even though I know it takes a village to raise a child. Big C, just your thoughts on how we can help get back and to create more entrepreneurs in the world of sports as well as entertainment and business. Big C, your thoughts on that?
Well, Charlton, what we provide is a real talk sports program, but it's not just sports, Charlton. This is a social economic sports program that we have. Because everything is encumbered, when you look at it, it's just one spear that goes around and around. So when we talk about sports is economics, Charlton. There's nobody out there on the professional level playing it for free. As we looked at these absorbent contracts as they keep growing over the years, and when we talked about the NBA players, getting more and more money. James Harden just had $118 million.
Wait, James Harden, the Matador defense guy? Does he play Matador defense, Big C?
Playing Matador and gave him another $118 million.
Oh, my goodness.
Talk about it in the world of life, sports money is irrelevant because it's only going to a few people.
Just a
like
few.
Those who make a lot of money on Wall Street.
Yeah.
We look at them, we loathe these people like, wow, they're giving them so much money. That's only a minute part of society. Look at the part of society that's not getting any money, Charlton, that cannot get a job, that cannot find quality housing or food, as you spoke about. These are the things, when you find a young man who has some athletic gift about it, then you take him and manipulate him into some university knowing that he cannot get a degree. But you spin him off after 2 or 3 years and say, hey, go ahead on and try the NFL. We got all out of you that we can. And then he is lost without a degree, Charlton.
Well,
and that's what we see so much of in society. I would love to see the statistical numbers, Charlton, of the last 40 years of the young men who have been to college, Charlton, and do not have degrees who have played sports on the college level. It would way outnumber those who have degrees. That would show you that these universities and colleges need to be held accountable. Everybody's talking about the lack of education.
Yeah.
But you got to look at the lack of institutional control, Charlton, that is allowing these young men not to get an education.
Well, see, Big C, and I think that's very powerful. Tonight we're having, it's Monday, they're talking about the home run derby for Major League Baseball. That's 5 o'clock p.m. ESPN, so that's right as our show is on. And then on Tuesday is the All-Star Game, and that's going to be on Fox. Now, Thursday there are no games. Now, I want to bring this up because we talk about the sports business, and I do believe what Jim Brown talked about and Harry Edwards and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, they were so poignant. But I also want to credit you because you've been talking about it for about a year, even going back to when we were at Salem Media. And in fact, I let some people know at Salem Media that we're going to be on iHeartRadio, and a lot of them said, well, congratulations. But the point is, they had something there, and we decided to do our own thing, Big C, and that's what I'm encouraging other people to do. So we went from an audience of about a platform of about 150,000 people a week to the iHeartRadio has a platform of 250 million. Okay, that listen weekly in their platforms, and you can find other shows on there, whether it's Colin Coward or shows from ESPN, etc. But my point to you is this, Big C, and you brought it up because you are prescient, you're ahead of the curve. But I do want to say this, though. When I think about how people can use their platform to reach out to people, it's not about Michael Jordan, who has no social consciousness, selling Nike tennis shoes for $500 when they cost $1.50 an hour to make them. Or even like Durant, he just signed, they gave him an $88 shoe. He said that's not enough because he's not an $88 player. A guy like LeBron James making $1 billion. I'm all for them getting their money. But I wish that people could have the Ali consciousness, because Ali, we talked about him being the greatest, Big C, and he was the greatest because he wasn't just about himself. He was about other people. He wasn't like Joe Montana, who just wanted to get paid to sign more autographs, or some of the other guys, that Steve Garvey, that wanted to get paid to sign autographs, or either other people that had whatever platform they had that really did to speak about how to help the poor kids, or even the kids of color, or some of the young female athletes. It was just about how much money could they have in their wallet. And the last segment I want to talk about, Big C, is this segment is sponsored by United Labor, guaranteed $100,000 life insurance with no medical questions. Also by Goosehead Property and Casualty. We beat about 98% of the people when it comes to a quote. And also I'm a broker with One Life America Life Insurance, with the leaders when it comes to finance expense. You can tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports on Twitter and Facebook. You can also follow us on the iHeartRadio coming up this month of July. And Big C, something that's so important to me is, I mentioned earlier, you talked about the finances. Now, you're in the South, and we have the SEC that you cover, and I'm out here in the Pac-12. We know that Lynn Swann, who's the new athletic director at USC, I'm a little bit ashamed of what he's done, because he talked about athletes don't need to get paid when you know he has a multi-million-dollar contract as the new athletic director, and he's going to take his good old boy from the Trojans to beat up on Alabama and I think you guys are called the Elephants, or what do you guys call it, the Tide? Is that what it's called?
We're gonna wipe the little white horse.
Okay. They got the white horse playing against the Elephants, USC Trojans, Alabama Crimson Tide. But none of these players can get any money. Now, what if USC and Alabama decided they were going to get smart and go on a strike, that the athletes that are being exploited were not going to get paid? Do you think that Clay Helton would show up if they said he's not going to get paid for that game? Do you think the great Nick Saban would show up if they said, Nick, we're not going to pay you that $7 million this year. You should be happy just to be on the Alabama team. Big C, could that ever happen? Because there's talk of that happening now, Big C, in California.
Well, realistically, Charlton, in the world of sports, there's nobody who is going to show up not being paid. And that's the only way, Charlton, to make a difference in professional sports is that there's a boycott, or even in college sports, Charlton. Just think about the opening week of the season, the first week in September. If all the colleges just band together and said, we're not going to play. All of a sudden, what's going to happen economically to ESPN, ABC, CBS, Fox, NBC? All of a sudden, they don't have a game to broadcast, Charlton, and we're talking about nationwide, and each one of them do 2 to 3 games on Saturday.
Yeah.
What would happen economically if these college athletes band together, said we're not going to play until we get paid? Think about the billions of dollars that was lost on that Saturday, Charlton. And when you look at it now, how many nights out of the week do you not get football on TV? Maybe one night. I believe it's Tuesday night, Charlton.
Yeah.
Is the only night. So 6 nights a week. The economics of football drives television. And they're not talking about compensating any athlete.
No, not at all.
So tell me, Charlton, how does this work? If you have a game on Wednesday or Thursday night and you have to travel, okay?
Yeah.
Away, how does that affect you educationally? So you're missing 2, maybe 3 days of school for this university economic gain, and you don't have an opportunity to attend class. Oh, but you're supposed to be a student athlete, I think. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So how do they placate that to say, hey, we're about the student athlete?
Well, see, Big C, that's so important, too, because, again, we're celebrating the All-Star Game, and you talked about earlier in the program how they destroyed the Negro Leagues when they integrated baseball. It wasn't that Richie wanted Jackie Robinson to integrate baseball. They wanted to get the top black talent to come and also the fans that were going to the Negro Leagues. And just like this prime minister from Europe was saying on CNN about the Black Lives Matter movement, he was saying it's about economics. It's not about race, because in Europe, most people identify by their country of origin, not their skin color or their ethnic group. And so the irony here is you have so many people in the United States, which is a great country. I mean, we have so much great potential when we have good people of all colors deciding that we're going to treat people the way we want to be treated. So that means I'm not going to recruit your kid, bring him to school, have him pump full of steroids, and then flunk him out of college after he helped me win a football game. Because that's what's happening to a lot of these kids. So even if kids did boycott a game, what are they going to do? Not get a degree? They don't get that anyway for the most part, especially the kids of color. So when you have European leaders saying the problem in America is that there's still this exploitation thing, they want the free labor out of the young black kids. That's what happened in integration. That's how Alabama got integrated when the great coach down there, Bill Bryant, played USC, and they had John McKay and Sam Bam Cunningham, and USC beat them back then like they're going to do this time. And he said, I got to get me some of them good old boys. He was talking about young black kids. But they were not getting paid then, and they're not getting paid now. And Jay Billis is right. It is an antitrust violation. We're going to watch the All-Star game on Tuesday, and all they're going to talk about is how many people are making $100,000, actually $100 million contracts, Big C, meaning some of these guys make $100,000 a week. Okay? $100,000 a week. You can't even give an athlete minimum wage, Big C? Your thoughts on that?
Well, Charlton, when we look at it, you got to look at the economic growth of college football and basketball since the integration of African-American athletes. If you go back and you look at the size of the arenas and, as well as the football stadiums prior to the introduction of African-American athletes in integration university, they were probably half the size of what they are now, if that large, Charlton. But African Americans have created such economic gain for these colleges and universities, Charlton, is that they're constantly expanding their stadiums to get more whites in to watch, but they're watching the African American athletes, Charlton. Now you go find an all-white college football team, and there's some that still exist. Go to the Ivy League, Charlton.
Yeah. Look
at the attendance of an Ivy League game, Charlton, where you may have 12 to 25,000 people, Charlton, at an Ivy League game, versus coming down to the SEC where you will get 110,000 people in a stadium, Charlton. What's the difference between the two? It's college football.
Yeah.
But But the difference between the two is that you have these dominant African-American athletes, Charlton.
Yeah.
That's the difference between the two. When you look at some of these mega basketball arenas, Charlton, that seat well in excess of 20,000 people in the stands.
Yeah.
Look at the rosters, Charlton, that predominantly African-American.
Yeah.
You're not going to go out and find, unless you're at BYU, the predominant white roster with 25,000 people in the stands.
You know,
it just doesn't exist, Charlton.
I want to bring this up, too, in the last few minutes of the program, Big C, because this is so important, because I have a son and I have a daughter going into college. I don't want them to be exploited. I don't want them to be taken advantage of just because they have stars in their eyes. And I know there's a lot of white parents who feel the same way. But for the most part, their kids are not being exploited as hard. Even in the Kerner Commission, it talked about Caucasian families having an easier chance for their kids to find work, whether they have a college degree or not, than a black American with a college degree. That's the Kerner report. That's not Charlton and Big C Sports. And so I want to bring this up. Phil Knight, who has all the money in the world, he gave, I think, $300 million to the University of Oregon to improve their athletic facility, not to help kids understand better computers and math and science. He also gave Stanford University, I think, $100 million to improve their athletic facility, not to help them with math and science. And a lot of kids at Stanford, they already come from an elementary and high school system that gives them that by the time they're 5 years old, Big C. But a lot of the inner city kids that are being preyed upon by these universities to come get bigger, stronger, and faster. Even Phil Knight, that sells shoes for $200 to $500, he'll put money into an athletic program before he'll put it into computers that predominantly benefits inner city kids that come there, because most of them don't have the high school system like you do out here in California for some of the private schools, Big C.
What they really do, and if you look at the University of Oregon, they woo these kids with all these clothes, with all the colors and different schemes that they have. And when you don't have anything growing up and all of a sudden you're on a recruiting trip to the university, and you walk out there with a duffel bag with over $1,000 of clothing items in this duffel bag, you're awestruck.
So you say
you want to go there because you feel that you're getting this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And this is what they do to these students. So they wore them with clothes, something that they never had. You walk out of there, you got 3 or 4 brand new pair of Nike shoes.
Yeah.
A couple Nike sweatsuits, shirts, hats. Everything that's Nike paraphernalia. You got a Nike watch. Who would not want to go to that university? They didn't talk anything about the academic level of what they expect from that young man or woman. They talk about what we can give you sports apparel wise, and so they're lost. And so when they get there, they're only thinking about the clothes that they can wear, not the academic load that they can carry.
So they give them clothes instead of money. And so I think it's important that, and I appreciate you talking about it so much, Big C. And I also want to just say that no matter who you are, what color you are, what gender you are, make sure that kids are not taken advantage of, because as Charlton and Big C Sports, we love the sports business, but I just hate to be a sycophant to it. And I want to make sure that at least people have a conscious audience to go to. And we call ourselves a conscious audience, Big C. And speaking of conscious audience, I also want to have people listen again to this great music that we have coming up with Charlton and Big C Sports. It's by The Real. It's called Mr. Anand. The guy's amazing. He does some music for Charlton and Big C Sports. You can listen to it worldwide. We're coming out also with some television opportunities for Charlton and Big C Sports. And Big C, I want to tell you, not only do we appreciate the music, we appreciate you, and you're the mystic, and we know that people can listen to you every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time worldwide on Charlton and Big C Sports. So we tell you, we thank you. We appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day. All right, Big C, we'll catch you tomorrow. Big C, have a super fantastic day.
Have a good one.